Welcome to the second Auckland User. So tonight, the agenda. So after this, I'll hand over to Summerset, who's going to talk through their, show us what their dRofus journey is like. And we'll have WARREN and MAHONEY talking a very cryptic title, From Chaos to Clarity. Brendan, unfortunately, is not able to join us. He's down with some flu, but we've got Amanda with us tonight. And we'll finish off with some updates from dRofus, software updates. So yeah, so that's me for now. And I'll hand it over to Summerset, Kevin and Angela.
Hey, thanks everyone. I'm Kevin Hagen, and here's Angela. And yeah, it's a real privilege to be here today and to present a little bit about our journey. We're from Summerset Retirement Villages, New Zealand. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about our journey. So we're going to just take you through a presentation we've prepared, linked it into 6 parts. We are briefly as an organisation and what our role is at the internal design team, and the 3 parts of the journey so far. Outlook looks like. The Summerset ultimately is around bringing the best of life to our residents, resident focused brand, and yeah, we're privileged to have a lot of residents with us, 8,500 really call our developments home. We have a huge amount of staff who deliver service, just to be part of the staff. We build villages around New Zealand. Familiar with that. We've got a really strong pipeline, 41 developments, either under construction or 11 greenfield sites, and a 2 seconds. As we mentioned, we are developing in both New Zealand and Australia. The operation in Australia is newish to the business, but operating in both New Zealand and Australia. I guess the privileged part of our model is that we are the client, and we are the lead consultant, but the main contractor and the operator. You're the owner. The design team itself, development, there's lots of functions within. There's a very big organisation, but the design team and the architectural practice reports to development. Yeah, we provide a scope from start to finish, so land acquisitions and investigations through to resource consent planning and applications for all our jobs, and all the way. So yeah, really to have that scope. We're at an offices in Wellington, Christchurch and Auckland. Service along with design management support. Scope in terms of what we design, both as build fit out. Obviously starting with the really resident-centric accommodation, which is heart and soul of what we provide, but accompanying that is a lot of front of house spaces, amenity, and then also the inner workings and the architectural scope is to detail and specify all those items. That challenge. So the challenge in terms of the practice as a whole is, again, just balancing the high volume against the high change. So that's just some numbers from this first 6 months. 1,604 transmittals, 73,000 documents, attachments to those transmittals, and then balancing that along with the high volume of change. Okay, guys, well, a typical main building in terms of occurrences, just to put it in perspective for dRofus, is around that sort of 11,000 occurrences. sorry. Is that better? Sorry. Yeah, so a typical main building has, these occurrences, and we're managing that along with product substitutions. Companies going in and out of liquidation, and lots of movement there. So that is the ultimate design challenge for us. So in terms of how we respond to that within our team, and what do we do to wrap around that, we clearly need a really strong QMS, and that's part of the role that we bring. So the components of that QMS for us is managing really strong design standards. Summerset as a brand knows what they want, what they need within a space. The buildings might look different, and they are genuinely bespoke, and we'll evolve our standards, but the specific needs to our spaces. That coupled along with change control, quality control, and document control ultimately is the backbone of our QMS. And so dRofus, and where that fits for us, is it's that tool to manage our design standards, and to manage quality control within that space. So we start the journey. For us, the journey started with identifying that challenge and trying to figure out where we're going with that goal. We put a business case together in the early days, and largely it was around the acknowledgement that the brief and the projects, that there was separation. There was natural separation between what was being asked of us and how that was documented, what was occurring on the project. And so the proposal or the goal at that stage was to say, well, let's just template or standardise a main building facility. Let's do that within and do it within dRofus. That sort of made for some interesting conversations in the early days with Matt and Jasper, when they said, what do you mean you don't want like a project, you want a template? Yeah, that's what we wanted. And so we developed a template, which is ultimately just one project, one database. And that's where we started. Our point of reference really was Australasian health guidelines. I thought as a comparison between what we do, they were pretty closely aligned in the fact that they were maintaining design standards for architects to follow, much in the same way as what we do in our application. Obviously different, but the same. And just put on the slide there, the left is what was the Summerset client brief compared to what was pulled from Australasian health guidelines. And so there was some real closeness and synergy there, and we kind of, through that research, understood that dRofus was the driver to produce that. So knowing that, we then went out to, I guess, the industry and sort of tried to get a bit of feedback around what this was about. And it was that something that we wanted to do. And so again, got genuinely some pretty good feedback, which gave us the confidence to move forward. And so we did. So I guess this is pretty similar to what most people face. Most projects, if you're not in dRofus, a state of separation, and that was us. We were 116 Word documents, trying to manage a client brief that was forever changing. Not necessarily because the company was always changing, but because, again, it was very granular, and things change all the time. So that coupled together with all the standard spreadsheets, the items requirements from different parts of the business, and then at the time, external consultants for interiors, which has now moved into an internal model, that created a lot of risk for us. So this was effectively our strategy that we said to the business. We said we need to chunk it. We can't do it all in one phase. So the building that we knew was quite well developed. It wasn't in the early stages of preliminary design. It was detailed design and had been produced. And so what we focused on was the schedules. So that was phase one. And then phase two was to then go back and backdate the functional data requirements as a second crack at it. Which, yeah, it has evolved, which we'll share shortly. So I'll hand over to Ange, and then I'll jump back. Yeah.
Cool. So hello, my name is Angela Loy, and I am the Design Standards Lead for Summerset. The first phase of the project, which I was pretty well given full charge of, it was taking all of that detailed design schedule. So yeah, the project was pretty well developed, so we knew that all the information we'd had was pretty robust. But what you'll find is once you start migrating all this information across and start organizing it, maybe things aren't as standardized as you thought they were, but it's a great tool to help you just, flesh out everything that should be where it is. So what we did was we grabbed all of the information and we loaded it across to dRofus. Works really well with Excel imports and exports. And then we assigned all of those item requirements into room templates. That, is a great function of dRofus. Lets you just get full control of what should be in each space, especially if those spaces are replicated throughout your building. So phase one was, as you can see, you can organize your items in any categories you'd like. So we did it as per our schedules. We had sanitary finishes, hardware, joinery. So I feel like this is pretty stock standard. Just a bit of a zoom in on what we elected to do. An interesting part of, I guess, what we decided to do was using sub-item categories for our windows and doors for the hardware, because those particular items need to be associated with another item. So that was a really good method for us to set up those sub-items in the background, and those link back to a specific item list that you will have already created. Just another zoom in. Yeah, so the connectivity with Revit and the dRofus plugin within the Revit software was really good for us, because that let us pull across all of the existing occurrences, all the instances of these doors, and so that we had a full list of exactly what was in the project. It just gave us a really accurate look at what was in there and helped us identify things that were missing for our hardware. Point to note is that for the other items, we'd already pretty well figured out the spatial requirements of the space, and that's why we didn't link those other families at this stage, but we'll talk about how we then did that in the future. Cool, so for phase one, it was all about bringing all of our information into one space so that we had one single source of truth. The connectivity with Revit was great because we could push and pull that information, and we knew that we could use dRofus as a sort of a control center for what we knew as a company, what we knew our standards were, and what we wanted in those spaces. Partnered with our change control system, which is just any changes to our design that had already been approved by the company through stakeholders. We were able to leverage off the change log within dRofus itself, so that we could identify exactly what was the old value, the new value, and also associate and assign just references back to our other change control system, so that we know exactly what's been updated and when and by who. So it's just taking accountability for anything that might change within the system and not leaving it to someone changing something and not telling anyone. What this means is that in the end, we still end up with reports, which is what we started with, but the benefit is that we get efficiency, consistency, and reliability in the information that we receive. So recently, an example of this is we've had a large amount of sanitary items that have been discontinued, and this is also very urgent because it's affecting a lot of our live projects. So the moment we get those substitutions in, we know that for each of these items, they might be assigned to up to 10 spaces, and instead of going through and finding each of those individual instances, we can just make one quick update to that particular item, and we just have confidence that it's been updated everywhere it's been assigned, as long as we know that it's a like-for-like substitution. So that really just gives us as a client and just as a company peace of mind for the information that we're providing. It's quick and easy. Lessons learned from phase one. So this is something that I guess I would recommend for anyone who's building a database from scratch, especially for categories like finishes. So when you assign finishes to a space, typically you're not just going to go, I'm going to put white melamine in this room, because you need to put it in a very specific location. You know, it might need to go on a specific joinery item or on a specific part of the wall. And so we elected to use item lists, categories for item lists. And you can see very quickly that it gets out of control because you've got so many different spaces you can assign those to. So what I would recommend is either using sub-item categories that are tied back to individual item lists that are really specific, or you can create occurrence parameters that you can assign to specific items. And that just helps you organize how you organize and just, spread out some of your categorization. It'll help you, firstly not lag the system and just have everything a bit more neat. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of good information out there as well. Moving on to part 2.
Thanks, Ange. I'll be brief. So journey part 2 for us was really the milestone of Half Moon Bay for Summerset, a big development that we've got here in Auckland. And what it did is it gave us the opportunity to present back to the business, hey, we've had some really good success with the template, and how can we leverage that now for more of our bespoke projects. We always had it in the plan when we pitched the business case that we would, for bespoke projects, look to expand and to create new databases. But what we landed on was to go into the enterprise agreement with dRofus, which has really opened and expanded the usage of what we're doing. And so it allowed us to move from a building template methodology to a building typology way of thinking, and attaching projects by typology to that database. And that's what we generally have. And yeah, as a company, we're growing those typologies as we expand and push the boundaries of our design. And one of those examples is the P&B for us. One of the elements there and the opportunities was to go quite early. Obviously, partner with WAM in the early stages of this project. And then when we took it on, when it got handed back to us as a design team, we then developed the functional data within dRofus, which for us, our client being the executive, have quite a specific requirement in terms of how they want to see it presented, and they really want a narrative in terms of the body and the strategy at a very high level, and then moving into a very granular level in terms of the parameters within a room. And so we leveraged off the room, the functional data module of dRofus, as opposed to the room data module or the room data parameters within the space, to create that. And we sort of, in the early days with Jasper, we were kind of going, which way do we go? But this is where we landed. We're really happy with the output. It did mean that we had to redo completely our functional tree and the way that we were thinking and presenting that. But because of it, I think we've landed on a really good structure for our projects going forward. It allows our design managers to input into that directly, and yeah, it's working really well. Word of warning though, I guess at this stage, is that there isn't a connectivity between the functional data and the room properties, and that there is a disconnect. So we've chosen not to do a double up. We just keep that data in the functional data module, and our workaround or workflow is that we'll only transfer it across into the room data once we're IFC and issued for construction, because ultimately our web-based browser is only used when the room is finalized. We'll use the native element of dRofus for when the design managers are having the stakeholder sessions. They'll use that side of it. So for us, it's working well, but it's just something to note if that's the direction you want to go. As well as developing the functional brief, it allowed us to validate spaces and ensure that our families and what was going in there was correct. And so what we had hard back, I suppose, in phase 1, we could fully expand it to phase 2 and ensure that we had all of our families there. So I'll hand over to Angie. She can finish this, please.
Yeah, so the previous section in phase 1 where we were migrating that information, that was already for a project that was pretty well near completion. So we got given a new project, leveraging off, the old database that we'd already created for that previous one. However, there are new spaces in this new typology. So we were able to use those same room template files just to give us an idea of, what should be going within these spaces, but we still needed to validate whether or not spatially those items would work. And so we decided at this point that we would start linking across the families. This worked well for us because we already had Revit family library files that were created and provided to us by our BIM team, and using those families that we know are, as per the Summerset standard, we were able to link across all of those different Revit family files into dRofus in an upload-only manner. So because you can link multiple Revit files into one dRofus database, we decided to use it as sort of like a control family, and we only upload families from the BIM files, and then we're only downloading the families once we're using them within our project files. And so dRofus acts as a bit of a control center again, because we already know that those items are assigned to those room templates. Now we also know that the families that are loaded against each of those items are correct to what they need to be in form and in quality, so that when our project teams then apply that room template and use the items in room function and the plugin, they can load it across and be certain that that's exactly what needs to be in that space. And then we can, check to see if it all fits or whether or not some things need to flex. So, this is just how we've elected to do it. We can sort of double down on the fact that we're using this database repeatedly for maybe other projects as well in the future, and having those items in there just works for us. And if any updates are made, we just upload it again through the control files and then load it back in. That's, I think, quite interesting. Moving on to verification. So we're able to verify and just check on, I guess, how we're going throughout the project. It is quite crude, what you're seeing on the screen, really high level, but it gets the job done. So on the left-hand side, we've got a functional brief completeness verification. This is just a report, a custom report that you can set up that actually prints out the full information that's in that client brief tab that that Kevin spoke to earlier on, with all the brief information that's written in there. And while that's being developed, we can highlight which areas are still lacking, which areas are completely blank, and it just helps us fill that out better. On the right-hand side, this is just the inbuilt dRofus verification, and it just lets you know what's good, what's a bit too much, and what's not placed as per what you've already assigned in the dRofus database. So we do this at different stages of the project to just check how we're going, and I think that's pretty good. Moving across to...
Thanks, Ange. We're nearly there, and really appreciate your time. For us, again, lessons learned for part 2. We got there in the end, but if we reround it again, it would be to document that dRofus plan earlier. We caught it in time, but for our future projects, we're in a much better place going forward. And I think setting those expectations with the project team around milestones and percentage drops and audits is something that we needed to have pathed out, and so we've done that. And the same with the progression and the development of the client brief itself and the elements within that. The brief is a big document, and obviously the granular levels of those isn't going to come at 100% every time. It's going to come through progressive stages of those scope stages. So that was an important lesson learnt for us, and would encourage everyone on that one. The other one too would be just around clear roles and responsibilities for the workflows. I know it's basic, but for us, we found that there was really nuances between each category, an item category. We will always evolve this, but as a typical workflow, that was sort of one that we've sort of rolled out and seems to be quite effective. But yeah, it's just around documenting that clearly and making sure that the project teams are fully aware of it. Final part in terms of the presentation is our part 3 journey, and that for us has really been around visibility. Obviously, the client brief was in Word documents, and as a company, there's an eagerness for that to be understood by the wider company and large individuals who work so hard for us. And so what we've done is we've popped it online within the company web and digitised it. But I guess one of the opportunities we've got because of because Summerset staff are our staff, is that we've just leveraged off the single sign-on, and that's where for us the web-based browser comes in. We can share the room standards in a digital way, so kind of expanding upon what Australasian Health are doing. We won't create a PDF room data sheet. Our intention is just to ensure that those are a digital version of that, transferring the room properties in here because it's for construction, it's locked down, it's a standard, and at that point that then becomes visible to the wider team and every staff member in Summerset should they choose to understand what, for example, the gym's doing. So yeah, that's the where we are at the moment, and we're hoping to release that to the wider team hopefully by the end of this month. So our last slide is really about what our next steps are for Summerset. For us, it's a journey, and there's definitely other individuals here who represent companies who are much further on the journey than we are, and we really appreciate the support and the relationships we have with you. Verification, as we've said before, we're in early days of that, and so we want to look to leverage off some analytics to do that better. Kit parts and assemblies. At the moment, we have a lot of items, but they're not grouped and they're not forming assemblies. So we want to be able to do that smarter, do it better, and allow the project teams to implement the items within the spaces more efficiently than they're currently doing. And we can cut that down quickly. Typology expansion. We're seriously considering putting our residential typologies into dRofus. It sounds strange, but we think genuinely there is a real opportunity there for us to manage our residential design standards and the items that equally form that fit out, and to do that in a really effective and controlled manner. There's big movement in our AMS space, and so a lot of those first 3 initiatives are around trying to prepare ourselves so that we can provide good quality data to the wider business and our property team. So that's something that we are really conscious about. At the moment, we don't link any consultant items into dRofus, but that's our next step. It's our natural progression. But we'll only want to do that once the company agrees what is the asset that they want to track. Any attempt to do that before that is a bit pointless. So that's where we are in that journey. But we have very much every intention to do that. And then the opportunity again with being the in-house model was to work with our construction and procurement partners to leverage the wider benefit of dRofus as well, which is there. And they can do that, and we're just in conversations with them as well. So, yeah, that's what it looks like in terms of where we've been and where we're going. And yeah, really appreciate your time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Kevin and Angela. Just wondering. No, sorry, not just wondering. It's always good to see what our customers use our software and how they actually help with their internal processes. Any questions from anyone in the audience or online? I think those online, you can unmute yourselves and ask a and ask a question. Anyone in the audience? The question was, which external consultants are you bringing in?
I think anything that'll be attached to the wall. So yeah, electrical, mechanical, ICT, yeah, ELV, all of the, yeah. As I said, it really is just going to come down to the particular asset items that the company wants to manage and wants to choose and to identify as, yeah, assets.
Hi, quick question. Who has access to the dRofus platform?
Good question. So it depends on which one it is. So the web-based browser, like we said, it would be via a single sign-on, and we're managing that through our Active Sync and Active Directories.
Yeah, so the crux around giving the visibility to the wider business is in the back end, where we will create user groups and give them a limited, I guess, level of permission. Different people on the project, such as design managers and our technicians, will be able to edit and, I guess, amend a lot more than just, say, someone from operations or property, where they just are interested in viewing that information. So in the admin side of things, you have full control over that, and that's how we've elected to, yeah, set that up.
On project, so that's kind of the web-based browser, but on project, I guess it's still finding our feet a little bit on that. We don't open dRofus up to every single member of the project team. I guess it's around partnering and targeting those champions within the project who are really going to be the ambassadors. So yeah, that's sort of our approach as a needs basis. But at a minimum, the design manager has access, architectural leads has access, and then whoever is responsible for placing and implementing has access as well.
From Kristen Cox at Hassel, she asks, have you had any major hiccups uploading and downloading of Revit families to dRofus?
So honestly, no. I think that when you're first starting off, it will prompt you to add some shared parameters that are required, both dRofus and Revit side, so that you've got information to read off. The setup is really important so that you have, I guess, all the categories connected correctly. The one hiccup that we probably have encountered that you wouldn't normally encounter from Revit to Revit transfer is typically Revit is backwards compatible, so that, you know, if you're loading a 2023 family into 2024, it'll automatically update that. What we found when we have, you know, our family library files were 2023 and we uploaded all that, and then we upgraded our project file, when we tried to load that in, it did crash the entire Revit program. So we had to upgrade all of our families to 2024, and then that completely fixed the issue. It's probably just something in the back end. It doesn't work quite the same. But other than that, there hasn't been any major issues with, you know, loading those families in and downloading them and placing them using the dRofus plugin. So yeah, it's pretty smooth, to be honest.
All right, thanks a lot, Kevin and Angela. We'll now just do a quick swap around. It might take probably, how long? 2 to 3 minutes just to do a swap around. Anyone in the audience who wants to top up of your drinks, please feel free. Yeah, and for those online, yeah, we'll reconvene in 2 to 3 minutes. All right, looks like most people have got their refill, and we'll make a start with Amanda from WARREN and MAHONEY doing a presentation on high-level project workflows. Over to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Jasper. Right. Evening, everyone. It's great to all have you all here in the WARREN and MAHONEY Auckland studio, and obviously online. And thank you to Kevin and Angela for a very interesting presentation. I'd also like to thank Jasper and Gigi and Chris for being here tonight from dRofus and organising this event. All right, let's jump into it. Chaos to clarity. Our experience over several years with predominantly large and medium scale projects, along with the odd small scale, and understanding the exponential curve and the pitfalls between the data generated relative to the scale of the project. Unfortunately, Brendan couldn't join me tonight. Hopefully he's listening online. But I'd like to acknowledge his involvement in putting together this presentation. And please forgive me at the end if I can't answer all your questions, because he should have been here with me. Brendan is a senior associate with WARREN and MAHONEY and is our group dRofus lead. And the two of us work quite closely together on the work that I'm about to give you a high-level glimpse into. For those that don't know me, as the slide suggests, I'm Amanda Mealings, a senior associate and part of the health design team here at WARREN and MAHONEY. So a little bit about WARREN and MAHONEY. We have a one studio approach across 7 locations with a talented team of 350 plus people and have been in practice for over 67 years, winning a few awards in that time and notably a knighthood. As mentioned, this presentation is going to give a high-level glimpse into the steps and principles we consider when establishing project-specific workflows, managing the chaos through to setting goals and continuing to evolve. Defining the chaos and the challenges that we have faced. There are 7 types of chaos, all with unique objectives to navigate. Spatial, material, functional, behavioural, temporal, cognitive and organisational. I'm going to touch on 3 of these and how we have taken aspects of each to explore, expand on and learn from to allow us to create tailored workflows within our projects. Behavioural chaos, communication, time pressures, misunderstandings, partially completed tasks, uncertainty to change and transparency. How do I manage the data in the database when I can't be at every meeting and I can't be in every decision-making process? How do I interpret the changes and establish a timeline whilst under pressure? How do I manage double ups of items occurring in rooms and questions of I'm not sure which is the correct one? How do you create workflows that work architecturally but also consider the wider consulting team? Revit says I should have 2 PowerPoints. But dRofus says I should have 10. Did someone get carried away? What do I need to update and what is correct? Who is responsible for specifying this item? What height is that vinyl meant to be at? And is the coding system clear and intuitive? Organisational chaos. Project history. How can this be passed along and readily accessed and not lost? Changes in team structure, key team members moving on, or I just joined the project partway through. What does it all mean? I'm only on this project for a week. Why has this changed? What is this item meant to be? The naming isn't clear. Schedules. Where should the data come from? There is so much information. How do we document with one single source of truth? Cognitive chaos. dRofus is just for room data sheets. There's so much to do. Is dRofus helping me? The setup takes significant thought and effort. I feel like I'm doing things twice. I don't know how to use the program and I'm not potentially that keen to learn. I've not come across this issue before and I'm not really certain what the next steps are and what I should do. Overcomplicating tasks. I don't want to model this item. Can I just delete it from dRofus? And lastly, assuming people can mind read. So unfortunately, sometimes we come across narrow-minded perspectives and viewpoints, bias to doing things in a particular way, and sometimes problems with problem solving, difficulties in problem solving. With all that chaos and all those decisions and questions and all that data, hopefully, comes some growth. Growth and development, taking a step back and establishing some project priorities. The source of truth, updating of the source of truth, establishing the workflows, assigning those workflows, training and clarifying, auditing, and the outcome. Establishing key principles around updating the source of truth to control the chaos is critical. It allows us to manage the unknown and build on it, understand the direction of the information between the database and the model, and ultimately be confident in our decision making. Some of the common questions that we've had along our journey is how do I track and communicate changes within the database to be able to rely on the information with multiple users? How do I keep track of items to confirm item specification with multiple users and budget codes? How do I verify the SOA and how often? How do I determine the correct template usage? Updating the source of truth requires discipline, clear goals, and rules that identify the priority items that should inform the database and ultimately confirm the brief. These priority items could be meeting minutes, user group meeting minutes as well, design instructions, kits of parts of line of heights where you've standardized things. There could be consultant documentation, even procurement. What shouldn't update the database? Informal conversations and hearsay. Feelings, just felt like the right thing to do. And in some cases, past experiences. In order to provide the whole team with the tools to update the database in a disciplined, clear and rule-focused manner, we need to establish and identify the appropriate workflows and understand the end goal. This involves creating initial workflow diagrams. This could be via hand sketches or utilising Miro. The workflows aren't always preempted and are often developed in response to desired project outcomes or a desire to establish more efficient documentation practices. Some of the workflows that we have found useful have been associated with troubleshooting, guidance and training documents. They've been rules-based step-by-step workflows, Revit to dRofus or vice versa integration, and dRofus and Revit only workflows. Noting the multiple layers of information and the multidisciplinary nature of the projects that we work on means that we often develop workflows and assign these in a stepped process based on who, what, and the timing to provide the best outcome for the project. Different workflows for different tasks to achieve the project goal relies on good communication and understanding of each discipline's scope and the end goal, noting that, of course, that we all need to work together. Often working together allows us to tailor training and clarify the misunderstandings along the way. Often as lead consultant, we are taking everyone on the journey with us, providing support and relevant training on a project workflow and troubleshooting to solve varying complexities of tasks and assist with issues as they arise. Quick thinking, often under pressure, is easier when we have tested workflows that are adaptable but still aligned to the project priorities and rules. They form a love-hate relationship for some of us, let's be honest. And unfortunately, there's always an accidental rule breaker amongst us. But established rules and workflows allow us to audit and find the inconsistencies, interrogate the data, and correct the mishaps, thus confirming our workflows or adapting them as needed. We audit almost everything at some stage of the project, sometimes multiple times. And Angela actually touched on that with her discrepancy report in her presentation as well. But the key is in knowing when is the best time to do so and the results that you're actually aiming to achieve. Auditing can help us detect where additional training may be required, how the task is tracking, provides visual aids potentially to those who are not regularly in the database or the model, or identify where there is significant repetition that may lead us to adopt a new or automated workflow. So after taking a step back and working through the process, we reach an outcome, hopefully one with tested workflows, providing greater efficiencies that are adaptable and engage the entire design team and the stakeholders. Repetitive tasks are simplified for population at varying scales that provide robust QA processes and clear, concise documentation from the single source of truth. providing us ultimately with a level of clarity. The light bulb moment. Where to from here? Having set the project priorities, worked through the nuances of establishing various workflows, and undertaken some test training, we are in a position where we have clear steps and workflows which provide greater efficiency in assisting our teams to focus on documenting, leading to happier teams who are less stressed and require less support as their skills grow. In finding clarity, we have identified the direction of flow between the data and the model. We have built on the principles and established the next steps. We have formed principles for updating information, such as finishes in one location, for population across drawings and schedules, all allowing us to fully apply the various workflows. All those questions from earlier associated with how do I track and communicate change within the source of truth, how do I rely on the information, and troubleshoot are all answered. We have a single source of truth with principles and rules to allow everyone to review the information and understand how we have concluded that this room does in fact need 10 PowerPoints. The users requested it, and on this date, and the model needs to be updated. For the process of updating, in dRofus we are using logs and comment fields, ownership categories, schedules with changes auto-identified, parts and subs, and utilising discrepancy reports to audit. In Revit, we're using parameters to push and pull data from the source of truth, understanding the best host for the type of data, checking the connection and the last sync of all irrelevant families for the process and reconnecting any broken links, adding additional links to better form teams on workflows, and using Dynamo to assess, define, or simply focus on one workflow, creating quicker turnarounds. All whilst understanding the prescribed rules and workflows, such as templates first and then deriving as required, using Excel for bulk updates for the most efficient workflow, and using both dRofus and Revit to generate visual aids at any stage to understand how our tasks are shaping up. We have undertaken all updates and inputs with clarity and with a multidisciplinary approach, reaffirmed that we are on the right track, and updated workflows as needed to ensure a best for project outcome for our stakeholders. Our communication is clear, easily interrogated, and we have a wide understanding of everyone's goals and needs. We have evolved the workflows and tailored further any required training to meet those multidisciplinary needs, and established the steps and timing of each to provide the multidisciplinary workflow and undertake project deliverables. This is associated with streams of work such as engineering technical reviews, digital infrastructure requirements, procurement team outputs, endorsement or sign-off processes, or it could be down to specification information. We have assigned the workflows based on project needs and member skill sets, and provided opportunities for upskilling along with identifying colleagues with skills for more advanced workflows. This process, however, never ends and leads us to continuously aim higher and to evolve. I touched briefly on generating visual aids to demonstrate at any stage how a task is tracking or shaping up. Dashboards are great for this, and using them on large to medium scale projects significantly enhances our workflows. They are interactive, are user-friendly, and provide real-time automated monitoring. They are flexible enough to be tailored and manipulated to show the data in various forms for an individual need. They provide enhanced clarity and focus on consolidating the data and allowing more informed decision making and increased accountability. Barriers to understanding the magnitude of data on large to medium scale projects can be associated with the inability to visualize all the data and identify any patterns and insights. Providing a platform that allows us to communicate and collaborate provides clarity, ensuring alignment, and reducing misunderstandings. Further to this, dashboards help us build on and streamline automated workflows, minimize repetitive tasks, and expose us to new ways of thinking and new tools, all whilst using that single source of truth. Streamlining identifies improvements which should come from team feedback or by pushing more dRofus data into the model. Streamlining a workflow improves the turnaround, resulting in a focused team and tasks, enhanced team morale, reduced abortive work, and a project meeting the goals and desired outcomes. At this point, we've taken a step back and we've created those principles and rules for the project-specific workflows to manage the various scale of typologies, the ups and downs of the management of that, and the quantum of the information. We have switched on to the benefits that in doing this, we achieve a greater sense of clarity, and we have now moved on to setting goals for improving even further our desired outcomes by effectively interacting with and implementing the single source of truth based on the principles and steps established, maintaining a methodical, disciplined approach to completing our documentation, both via the database and the model, with a positive just do it attitude. We have a clear communication and ownership of the roles and responsibilities with a multidisciplinary approach to the best project outcome. We need to monitor and improve our workflows with the use of dashboards and automation where appropriate, along with maintaining the single source of truth for documentation and utilising the tools to maximise the outputs and target an appropriate level of effort. We continue to build on the deliverable aspects of the project and how best to document the outputs from the single source of truth. We manage expectations and weigh up the pros and cons of workflow effectiveness. We engage with PDFs, IFCs, and digital twin models to interrogate and coordinate our project deliverables, all whilst maintaining the database and the model in its intertwined single source of truth. We review and adapt to ensure we are always working with the most up-to-date information available, testing and verifying and remaining flexible to change whilst aiming for minimal impact should change occur. We are engaging regularly with others to ensure our collaboration partners are on the journey with us and everyone is on the same page and targeting the same goals and outcomes. And lastly, to grow, we need to reflect on where we started, the journey, and where we are today. Knowing that there are opportunities to learn and improve, one size does not fit all, different projects require different priorities, and projects are only as successful as the data that we are working with. Thanks.
Any questions online or in the room for Amanda?
How does master spec specification fit in with that workflow?
Sorry, I'll answer the first question first. We made it with AI. Sorry, I didn't quite catch the second question. Can you repeat that?
So just regarding master spec as part of the design process, there's a selection area in that, and I just wondered how that fits in with the process you've talked about.
Yeah, good question. So we try to relate everything back to our keynoting and things in Revit. So we try to maintain the same coding requirements in dRofus that are then coded back to the master spec specification, so our keynoting and everything aligns.
Cool.
Question? Yeah.
Is the dRofus any part of the contractual documents?
Another good question. That's probably project specific. So in some cases, yes. We do work with pretty large scale procurement teams at times, and they do take the information that we input into dRofus and they build on that once we issue our construction documentation. So it really just depends on your client, to be honest.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. Okay, well, First of all, thank you, WARREN and Mahoney, for hosting us on this evening, and 2 great presentations. So I hope, well, it certainly is quite hard to follow. Certainly Summerset, very interesting, and yes, thank you, Amanda. So just flicking through, here we go, that was relating to those. So what's new in dRofus? So all the new features we're going to present right now have been made available since the beginning of the year. So yeah, let's start off. So first of all, we're no longer talking about the dRofus client anymore. So basic things, but we're now talking about the dRofus desktop app. So first of all, so who's using modern sign-in? Is this a regular thing? Yes. Yes, good. Well, there's some good reasons to do so. So this is the way, and mainly because of speed. So there was a huge effort in rewriting a large amount of code that allowed for multi-threading, and this is only available, you'll only appreciate the speed if you're using modern sign-in. So yeah, if you're not already, please do so, give it a crack. So this is arrived at the beginning of the year. So, but very important, yes. So the ability to change your serial numbers of your child items. So previously you would have to make things a parent and then make them a child again to reorganize and have it exactly the way you want it. And we know that people like things the way they want it with dRofus. Talking about child items again. So we have some additional columns. So this is identifying when a parent has child items to it. So we have both yes or no, Boolean, but also the number of child items are there. So a good use case for this is when you're trying to identify parent items that may or not, should they have the actual quantity assigned to them, or maybe it should be all pushed down to the children, or vice versa. So most of you probably know we have 2 versions of dRofus. We have the regular stable version, and we also have our early access version. There's a QR code there, so you can sign up to our early access program, and you'll get a notification whenever a new version is released. So our product team likes to talk to it as the latest version of dRofus. It's got all the new whiz-bang features. So what is within our EAP this year? So for a long time, it's been possible to copy room data from a room into a template, but not little bit by piece. So we're talking each individual field. So the values within that room data within a room, you can now go, oh, actually, made a call. This actually needs to be a room template. All those values that we've populated, all the data, we can now suck that back up into a template, maybe just piecemeal by fields. Yeah, that's us picking the actual field. So minor, but probably a good one for those exporting Excels. So the actual progress information panel which pops up has actually been rewritten. It gives you much more granular information about how far you've got to go, but also more importantly, the actual cancel button works. So many of you may have noticed if you hit cancel, it still eventually popped out the other end, but now it will actually stop the process. So those that deal with budget price, which is nominated at an item level, it's possible within your rooms list now to add columns that basically provide a gross total value and net of everything that's in that list. So you actually have per list, but at the very bottom you can have all your lists together. So it's like a room total. Also, you can see this, and this actually used to be available in a very old version of dRofus, like version 1.1. At the very bottom there, you can see there's the total gross and total net. The difference being, obviously, if you've got any existing item quantities in play, that's what defines the difference. So the area panel has been around for a very long time, and for those who don't know where it is, it's over on the right-hand side there, but it's actually been renamed Area and Costs panel. So all this aggregation of costs that we kind of just showed you in the previous slide, it's now possible to define that, and it kind of rolls up to the various functions that you've got in your project. So you can see at a very high level the entire project cost. Yeah, so also because it's been rewritten, they've done a few other things. So it's much faster to load and refresh now. It used to actually take quite a while to actually populate that area panel. Also some new formatting. So you can see at the very top, there's the bold project level function and all the indenting. So it's just to try and give it a more graphical distinction. And it's just aggregating the cost, yes. Yeah, a simple one. So many of you probably know we've got our learning platform, dRofus Academy. It's actually starting to get rebranded as just dRofus Learn. But within the client, or the desktop, I should say, we now also have just a link that takes you straight through. But what it does actually, because it knows you're logged into dRofus, so it knows your username. Most of the case, this is your email address, and therefore you don't actually have to go sign into the dRofus Learn platform. It just takes you straight in. Yeah, that's dRofus Learn. Okay, so we just pulled to one side so like all the administrative level features that we've released. So here they go. So you guys asked for more calculations. What you got is a load more calculations, more so to do with kind of string and text manipulation and checking. So these are the top set, which just gives you either true or false, or that one length gives you the number of characters involved. But very importantly, I think this is a very powerful tool. So string manipulation, as far as pulling out pieces of a particular like item name, you can tidy things up. If you're pulling through like family name and type, you can re-edit those, replace values, remove illegal characters, anything like that for file names. And this is actually only in the EAP. So date calculations have just been released. So you can actually subtract days, months from a particular date that's provided elsewhere in the project. So this is probably the most substantial feature that's been released. So the new user interface editor, previously the dynamic GUI editor, has had a complete rewrite. It was in a very old form of code previously. And this has come with a few extra features. Certainly lightning fast loading. It was very slow before, slower over time. It's a true WYSIWYG, which is what you see is what you get preview. And previously you had to do a lot of save to database and then refresh consistently to actually see those changes. So it's actually auto-saving now every time you make a change. And then also it's instantly refreshing the preview. So no need to press those buttons anymore. And for organizing your data, you can actually drag certain elements or groups or fields around. And you can also multi-select using the control key and use the Control-C and Control-V option to kind of copy and paste, replicate, even copying them into different sections. There's a couple of good new features relating to multi-line fields specifically. So you can see there that we've got a note section, and you can see that you can actually show label above. You can see how if I just flick back, it's quite faint. But if I click that one, you see how it actually goes above. And also for field sizing. So we found a lot of old projects were having to nominate height and width of certain fields. So this is relevant to single line edits as well as multi-line, but there should be far less instances now where you actually need to nominate such heights and widths. Just allow it to basically auto size. So you can see the example there. We've got note 1, note 2, and it's just gone equal, equal. We know architects love a good of equal, equal. And yeah, last one. So this has been around for a little while, but it's actually possible now to nominate negative values within DIN-GUI fields. And this is a whole raft of options that were available in the old dynamic GUI, which we had many services requests going, oh, what do these do? How, have you got a list of the definitions of all these? We go, well, sadly, actually, most of them don't do very many things anymore. So they've actually all been removed. So very much simplified. And the new reports. So there's been a lot of fast development within the new reports, and they are an amazing feature themselves. But there's within there, here's a couple of new features. So yeah, it's a basic one, but the old checkbox was actually getting a bit dated. So we've given it uplift, so it's much clearer now to see. So that's just been rolled out across all the new reports. Also, if you've got any URLs that are nested within any field, single line edits, anywhere within item data, room data, anywhere it may be, they are all now automatically getting converted to these blue clickable links. And it's actually possible via some RDL coding to take that to the next step. You can actually choose to replace that with your preferred fixed value. So you could just replace it with the word link, for example. Away. And all QR codes now are also clickable. So we've noticed a lot of people don't really want to get their small teeny device out, and they just want to click on it and stay on the same device. So the room data section within the new reports. So this is what it has been looking like for many, many, many years, and you can see the old checkbox there as well. So this has been uplifted to the new default room data style. So it's a slightly better for space, but it's a lot more controllable now. So via a little minor RDL editing, you can see how we very quickly, and I'll just flick between that, that's the standard, and that's just increasing of the label formatting width, just to basically give it a bit more space, prevent the wrapping. But it doesn't stop there. We can change with further formatting, and this is like your background colors, you've got borders, you've got font sizes and font colors and bolds and everything you may wish. So yeah, the options are now endless. Okay, this is good, and this is actually quite new. So occurrence lists within reports, and it is limited to occurrence lists, I'll tell you that. That basically we can now identify where things have changed in certain ways. So, and that's controlled by a form of conditional formatting. So we can define things that have been added, and obviously you can choose your color, choose the way it is presented, or change. So that's quantity changes specifically, and also if things have been deleted. Literally have 1 minute to go. So yeah, the roadmap. So Revit 2025 support is definitely coming this year. There has been slightly slower delays. Okay. Most developers with their Revit add-ons have had a sluggish release this year because of the massive .NET 8 update, but it's coming. Also, for our project administrators in the room, the new admin website is also coming. So a refresh, modernization, generally looking better. I'm also told that we should have a bit of dark mode for those light sensitive people like myself. Also, so this is a big one. So we're still kind of seeking feedback and stuff, but we do have a minimal vial product for the ability to actually sync directly with the Autodesk Construction Cloud published models. So currently this is limited to data extraction from ACC, but all the benefits that we've been talking about and discussing is very much that you can sync without a Revit license, technically, without a Revit instance running. There's no interruption to production. You're not going to bang against like 12 people trying to edit things in your project. It's all going to be performed by dRofus Web, and the ability to potentially sync all your project models at once. So the MVP, what we've been seeing is the ability to actually import and update dRofus rooms based on that. So, for example, updating designed area across all your rooms. Yes, so I hear they had limited audio, but yeah, any questions? Have we done enough this year? Yep. The visual, the systems web. Oh, that is not something I've had an improvement request from. So get it written, get it sent to us, and we'll give it a go. Here we go. Any other questions? Have you written a ticket? It's going to be my same response to everyone tonight. Yeah. No, so our contender viewer is somewhat fixed in what we're currently seeing with the IFC viewer. Not unless you wish to entertain maybe our sister brand, the D-Twin product that I think can do that kind of thing. Yes, Mel? Strike through, yeah. Oh, at the bottom, yes. Well, we've aggregated the quantities down to the bottom, so yeah, it doesn't care that it's been stripped through. Yeah, correct. Good catch. Yes. Any other questions? Anything online, Jasper? The AC. Yeah, the ACC stuff. I imagine what he's talking about. Well, thank you so much, and if that's end of the session. There's plenty of beer left, guys, and bottles of wine, so enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much.
And just one thing for the guys online, thank you very much for joining in from wherever you are in the world. Yeah, we'll conclude the session here, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Maybe in the same space, maybe somewhere else, but we'll reach out to you when we are organizing the next NZ user group. See you later. Bye.